What's up, everybody, and welcome to Toxic Hustle. Welcome to the walkthrough in which we're going to show you how to use the Trapanese art, MG, the future inspired artwork in your projects and what you get after you make the purchase and how to use it. 'Cause I'm going to show you how to remake the cover. So let me show you what I mean. What we'll be doing today is we're going to remake the Trapanese art cover. I'm going to show you exactly how I do it and show you how to use some of these assets in your graphics and how I went about getting this done. So, without further ado, let's get into it. So, first thing we're going to do is let's go through. This is not the folder. Close this out. So, this is the folder you get once when you unzip it. You go inside the folder and you've got some characters, you've got your grunge overlays, you've got landscapes, you've got your CD plastic, your shattered glass, and stickers. Now I'm not going to go into characters yet. I'm going to go into landscape scenes so you can actually see the scenes first that the characters are used for. So let's start with the ISO scene. It's going to be almost like a video game. It's not the typical isometrics, but you're going to have multiple scenes that you can use that are kind of like video game style. You've got 5 there. Then, of course, you've got Bushido Village. So you've got some great looking scenes in here. And this is the background we're going to be using for the CD cover. Got that one and this one, right? Some good ones there. Then inside now your characters, you've got 2 sets of characters for each scene. So ISO scenes, you have princess and warriors. So here's your ISO princesses, your ISO warriors. Then in the Bushido, you've got princess, Bushido princess. The 2 of them have backgrounds on them. The rest of them, but they're still cut out. You'll see that in a second when I use this one. Why I use this one because 1, it looks good, but 2, I wanted to show you that you can use these with the backgrounds. And then the warrior, the Bushido warriors. We got 5 of them in there. So of course I used this one for the image. So we're gonna use that again. Also, let's see. So we went through the characters, went through landscapes, grunge overlays. You've got 5 different sets in here: age, splatter, splatter. These are 1 by 1, so they're squared. 3 by 2, so they're rectangular. Same here. You've got cracks. So here's your splatter, your age splatters, burned cracks with paper, right? So it's paper, burned cracks, weathered with the 3 by 2s, and then a 5 by 4 weather crack. These are just larger sets. All right, so we have those in our overlays. I'll show you how to use them in a minute. Then we got our plastic. We're going to be using that as well. And then we have shattered glass. Won't be using it in this one, but it's very dope for certain scenes. And then you got stickers. MG the Future used it in his video. I won't be using a sticker in this one. So let's get started. What I'm going to do is first, let's go with I'm going to go Control New or Control N. I'm going to start with a 2000 by 2000 box. And then we're going to go into the Trapanese art. And the first thing we're going to do is go into our landscape scene. I'm going to go into Bushido Village and we're going to grab one of these and throw it in. Then I'm going to scale it up and then set it down. And it was right around here that I had it. So I think that's good. All right. So now the next thing is we're going to need Bushido characters, right? So let's go up here, go on and get our princess first. And we're going to use her because she has the background behind her a little bit. We want to make sure we set her in the back so that all of that is going to be there. And then we're going to need a Bushido warrior, and we're going to use the one that we used and drag him in. So like that. Of course, we're going to scale him up just a bit so that his head is almost around the same size. right? Right. So that's how we make sure that there's consistency, even when she's peeking over his shoulder. I'm actually gonna make this a little big. Now it's like not exactly. There we go. So that kind of looks like it. Let's double click and make sure where she was. It was kind of like she's looking over his shoulder. Okay. So same thing there, but I'll just make it a little bit big. So it's almost like she's over his shoulder. Okay. Double click on that. So now we've got our warrior and princess, excuse me. All right. So then the next thing we're going to need is, of course, we've got the two fonts inside the folder. Oops, wrong one. Inside the folder, we go back up. If you go into the README, Fedora and Heath Knotted are the fonts that I used. So we're going to go with the Fedora first. So let's go with text tool or T. Then I'm going to double click on that and I'm actually Control A so I can get in there. Fedora. There we go. Dora. Gonna use that. Double click there. And then I'm just gonna put the Trapanese. All right. There we are. And that was the color we used. So now we've got that. I'm gonna hit Control T, and then that's gonna transform. That's the transform tool. I'm just gonna blow this up a bit like that. V to go into the move tool. Control A so that I can select everything here. Then we're going to click this little center button so it centers it left and right. And then hit Control D to deselect, or Option D for you Mac users. Now, I need a little stroke around this because I don't want it to get blinded into this lighter background. I kind of want it to stand out from the background. So I'm going to go down here and I'm going to put a stroke on that, like so. Currently it's yellow, so let's go ahead and choose like one of these red that are inside the tree. Something like that. I think that's close to it. And the stroke size of 5, is that about right? No, it's a little thicker than that. So we're going to go ahead and make it a little bit thicker. Like that. There we are. So we got, that way it stands out a little bit on the back, right? So now it's not just bleeding in. Now I want it to pop off the page a little bit. So again, it sets itself off, sets itself away. So I'm going to go ahead and do a drop shadow on that. Okay. Really can't see it. So I'm going to turn up that a bit, the distance. There we are. I'm starting to see it now. Turn the burn up a bit. There we are. I have it set to linear burn so that it burns into the background. Looks good. Maybe a little bit more spread. That kind of darkens it up. Again, sets it off page a little bit more. I think that looks good. I think that's good. So now we've got Trapanese a little bit off the page, so it separates itself and it kind of floats over the image, which is perfect. Then the next thing we have is this text here, so art. So let's go ahead and grab the text tool again or hit T. And then again, I'm just going to click up here. And I'm going to just type out the word art and hit Control Enter so that it's locked. And then we know this one was, forgot it again. Knotted Heath? Yeah, Heath Knotted. So Heath. So go up here, double click, or you can click right in here and put HEAT 8. There we go. Heath Knotted. And it changed it. All right, let's go to the move tool and kind of the I keep moving this. I'm gonna lock this. Like, well, actually, let me just move this so I can actually see it and drag it. There we go. Turn the background back on so I can see again. There it is. All right, that's why I couldn't see. So we're gonna first let's change the color also to a red. I can either take the red no, I can't get that. I think it's right around here. There we are. So I have that red right there. All right, and then I'm gonna hit Control T, and I'm just gonna scale this up. So now we have Trapanese art right here. For red, kind of more of a bright red. Okay, so it wasn't so dark. Let's lighten that up then. I think we probably use things like the sky over here to do it. And it was all caps. So it wasn't lowercase. It does make a difference. All right. Now we can. And let's scale this down just a bit because it wasn't prominent. Like so. That's perfect. Now you can see that there's a drop shadow on this because it is separating itself from the text, right? Because I want it floating, not just sitting on there because you can't see any see. It's blending in, it's bleeding in. So I want some separation there. So we are going to go ahead and hit effects and drop a drop shadow. Same settings that we basically used on there. We're using here, except I am going to turn up the opacity on this one so it sits out a little bit more. But I am going to turn down the spread some and turn down the size. We don't need the size that crazy. Don't need the spread that crazy. And the distance can go up. All right, so there we go. So now this is popped off the page a little bit. This is off the page. It's not bleeding in. So now we've got everything we wanted. All right, so now we've got our background. We've got our text sitting on top of our background. We've got our people sitting inside our scene. So now let's start tying it all in, right? We want to make sure everything kind of like looks like they're all in the same game together, so to speak. Also, before I do this, let's get the MG inspired art volume 1 text also in here. What I'm gonna do is I'm not gonna rework this. I'm just gonna drag and drop this. Let me see. Gonna Control C, copy, Control V to paste. Bring that down here. And now I'm just going to double click and put capital MG, the future. There's a dash. Nope. Inspired. Let's Control Enter. Yes, I know it's not centered, right? So let's center this myself. I Control A to select everything. And then I'm on the Move tool. And then I hit Center. Right? So just so you see it again, because I did it kind of fast, sorry. Control A. Puts the border. Make sure you're on the Move tool. Once you're on the Move tool, you go here and click Center. And now you're centered, right? So then Control D to deselect, T to go back into the text tool. And let me make sure I put a space in here. I did not. All right. Trapanese inspired art. Then I need another space. Space dash VOL1. And there's no dot, right? No, there's. All right. So there we are. So I'm going to Control A and make sure this is centered. To center the text on the paragraph. And Control Enter. I should have done that up front, so then we wouldn't have to keep doing this. Because if I had centered this, Control D. Oh, I have to do there. See, because I didn't center it first with the paragraph, I have to keep moving back and forth. Now it actually just stays centered. So even if I remove the whole word like this, you see now, it just collapses straight to the center. So there we go. So now we've got our text here, and we've got, so the text, if you look at the color, looks like the same color here. So it means I use the same color here that I used for this. So now let's go ahead and make sure we have the text chosen. Now you can double click on it like this and then change the text from up here like this. You can do it if you have the menu open here and do it from the left like that. If you have the new beta or the new updated Photoshop, it's right here. And then I just click there to select that color. And now I have Control Enter the text MG the Future inspired artwork. It does have a drop shadow, so it's standing off the page. I will make it darker just because this text needs to be darker. So I'm going to go ahead and with this, I'm going to go to the drop shadow. And because I want this to be a little bit darker, I'm actually going to jack up, pause the actual overlay opacity on the drop shadow, excuse me. And then the distance I'll leave alone. The spread, I will see how the spread, let me show you again. See how the spread, because you add that spread, all of a sudden it darkens that area. So there we go. That's what I'm doing. Put a little bit more spread on it, and I've got good color on there. All right. Size looks good. Distance looks good. Maybe I can even tone it down a little bit. There we are. There we are. So now we've got our MG inspired art. Looks dark, sits off the text. We look good. If it goes into shadow, that's fine because the text will just stand out on its own. It's only when it's in the brighter areas you want it to sit over the top of it so it doesn't bleed in. So now we've got it, right? So now we've got our text up here and we've got Trapanese, again, more text, right? I'm going to close these down. Then we have our characters. So now starting right here, I want to make sure I select it. And then what we're going to do is we're going to go get an overlay to go on top of this. Now I've got to remember which overlay that was. Let's go to grunge overlays. I believe it was a crack, a 1-to-1. And it was this one because I remember the crack is in the top side. So it's this one. So we're going to grab this one, which would be number 4. And I'm going to drag number 4 right here, hold shift, and then just drag and drop it on top. The reason why you hold shift is now it centers it right there. Now I'm going to start dragging it from the corner, hit the Alt button, and now all of a sudden, it now scales from the center. I'm going to drag that all the way up like this and make sure it covers the entire thing like that. So like, I don't want none of this white space here because it's not a scroll or anything like that. I want just the effects of the paper to go over the entire thing. So now let me drag it over the entire thing and drag and double click it. So now it's sitting here. Now this is great. This is not what we want, right? We don't want this because we can't see none of our people. So we're going to need a burn to go over that, right? So if you have something light that needs to if you have light and you have black spots, so again, if you have all this light area, right, and you have just the black spots, you want to burn that in. If you have dark, like the glass or the plastic, well, then you're going to, because it's dark, you want to lighten. So if it's lightened, you want to darken. And if it's darkened, you want to lighten. So dark textures get lightened and light textures get darkened. Since this is majority a light texture, we want to darken it so that now only the darkened areas show up on there, right? So now it looks like it's part of this paper. Right, so which one did I use? Did I use, I didn't use any of the Dodges, right? Yeah, so I did use, not color burn, but I think darker color. Let me look at the tone of this. Yeah, because it didn't really get, the color of him didn't change into an orange like this. But then again, I did paste everywhere. Oh, hold on, let me see. Nah, because it's not as in the corners. So I can tell by this not being orangey that I didn't use that up here. So it has to be just the darker color, right? Yeah, that looks like it. Yep. So we use darker color. And there we go. There's your darker color. but now you'll notice I've got all these cracks and things all over their faces, and I don't want that. So now I'm going to show you how you mask out stuff. So let me click this so I make it more prominent, right? I want to make this very prominent. Let's make sure the cracks are on his face and on her head and all this. So I don't want this crack across his head. I don't want this crack in her, like in her face. I don't want any lines in her face or in his face, like right here. So I'm going to show you how to mask this stuff out. Okay. So what we're going to do is, since we don't have anything selected, let's just go ahead and hit the mask. You know, you're going to see this white area. So now what happened? Anything that's white is see-through. Now, anything that's black that we paint on here is going to be hidden, right? We're going to put it in the void. So, so what you see here is your darker color. What you want to do is get a brush tool, or B, and then you want to size your brush up. So you can either change the size up here, or I'm using the square bracket key and making it, if you use the square brackets right above the enter key. Oops, and go back to brush and the square brackets that are right around your enter key, the square bracket. You go up and down on that, you can see my brush is changing sizes. So now I can paint with the black, and you see it's beginning to erase. And I'm using a brush is not sharp because I don't want sharp edges. I want it to fade. So that's what I'm just clicking. Let's zoom in so you can actually see this, right? So I want to make sure I get it right to the head. You can see all this is erasing. All of these lines on him are disappearing. And now we have a very clean face for him, right? And if I wanted to remove the mole on his head, I'll use the healing brush. Then I could just draw on the actual picture, go into it. Oops, sorry, wrong picture. I meant his picture, right? Double click into his picture. And like if I wanted to remove that right there in his forehead, go get the healing brush, do that, boom, it's gone. Hit save and close it out. When you come back, that little dotted. So now I've got some more marks on her face. Let's go into this mask again, right? So we're on the mask. Then I'm going to hit the space bar so I get the hand tool. You see how the hand pops up? Got that hand tool, so now I can drag and drop this around. I'm back on my brush. Well, I need to get my brush, right? Let's just use the left square bracket and drop that down some. And now I'm going to start painting this off of her. And let's get these little marks off her face. That's part of the picture. That's fine. And then, and you get any little, not too. There we go. And that's it. All right. So now we've got her face all cleaned off, his face all cleaned off. You zoom in, we've still got the cracks going into the scene, and everything is kind of tied together because of that overlay color. And now if we hit Control-0, and I'll zoom out a little bit, there you are. If we look at what we had, our Trapanese inspired art, there's your Trapanese inspired art. Well, I hope this helps to see how you can use the packs, how the packs can help you design great graphics. This is Traj with Toxic Hustle. Thank you for taking a look at Trapanese Art MG'd, the Trapanese Art MG'd Inspired Art Volume 1. I hope that it does great works for your works, and I'll talk to you later. Take care.